All right, looks like we kind of rolled across that 10 a.m. hour. So yeah, I'll get started here. My name is Andrew Steffensmeier. I'm a tax manager and partner here at McMill CPAs and Advisors. I've been here almost 10 years now, and with me I have Stacy Dieckman from Northeast Community College, and she is the Director of Financial Aid. So very knowledgeable in some of the topics we're going to be talking about today. We do have the presentation piece that we'll go through, a brief slideshow of what we should be thinking about at different stages of the college planning phase. And then at the end, we're going to open it up for some Q&A, mostly probably directed at Stacy, any kind of deadlines that we have for students applying for financial aid, and everybody's favorite FAFSA form. She'll have all the information on that. So I will get started here with the presentation. Again, today we're trying to formulate somewhat of a plan from when our students are even entering high school all the way up through that last year of high school. What do we need to be doing at each stage of the game along the way? Because it's not a good plan if we wait until that last year and we try to get everything done that year before college. Also, we need to begin with the end in mind with college. So talk with our kids, see what their interests are early on, talk about money with them, what is college funding going to look like, and we just have to have that general plan in mind because plans can change very quickly. And beginning with end in mind, we're trying to get our kids through school with a degree that gets them a job with a positive ROI. Being accounting people, we want return on investment. So how do we have that for our kids so they have a good experience? And lastly, on the college planning side, there's two ends of the spectrum that we see. So either the parents are very involved and the kids are not very involved, to where the parents almost take over the college planning phase. And the other end of the spectrum is the parents almost wipe their hands of it and say, okay, students, go figure it out. So we're trying to get somewhere in that middle to where parents and the kids are having a successful dialogue on what things we need to be doing to prepare for college. And so we're trying to strike that balance, so the earlier on we can plan, obviously the better experience we'll have. And so yeah, we'll kind of get into the presentation here. Get this going. So again, the theme today, we need to start early. So, that could be middle school, just talking about college in general. And also, once that 7th through 8th grade hits, once we start high school, we do have to have pretty good direction on what we're going to be doing. And so that's where we start with this high school. So again, once we're in that high school frame, who can we ask for questions? So theme of our presentation is going to be, we need to ask questions to anybody who will listen. So asking our guidance counselors, career counselors at these local high schools, see what colleges are in the area, and also what path students can take to have a major or have some kind of guidance on what major might be good for their interests. And obviously one of those things are occupation tests. So if we're taking a occupation test, maybe it says we're good in math skills. So maybe accounting is a good profession to take on or to study. And so yeah, just asking questions early on in that high school. So this can be all the way up from 8th grader to about a sophomore. We're just trying to gather information. And lastly, once we get a little bit closer to the end of that high school term, having kids, if we've talked about the budget for what we're going to be spending on college and we're coming up a little bit short, how do we have our kids apply for scholarships to fund that difference and try to, follow this college planning plan that we have as closely as possible. And again, as we're going through high school, we're trying to, pick classes that might, align with those careers that we determine are good fits from those occupation tests. Also look for, we have Stacy on the call here, for dual credit and community college classes. And so what do those look like for our students, and how do we get involved. So Stacy, could you maybe talk a little bit about how parents can get a hold of somebody at a Northeast Community College and see what classes they should be taking or what might count for a major?
Yes, so we have an individual at Northeast. Her name is Michaela Williams, and she does all of our early college outreach, and so works with our different high schools in our 20 county area about what classes are eligible for dual credit at each high school. And so each community college would have that as an option. So reach out to your community college in your area to find out what dual credit classes are offered. You could visit with the registrar's office to see what might transfer to your school of your choice. You could also look at a career counselor at a community college, could give you some information about what might be the best fit for dual credit classes, depending on the program of study that you're looking at.
Yeah, I know we've had clients' kids and even some of our own kids here. You know, we can graduate high school with even a year or a year and a half done for college, and obviously at a very cheap rate, which we like for our ROI conversation that we had already. So that's a great way to really, you know, reach out to community colleges and see what they have to offer. You know, students are very, you know, if they're on board and they know a career that they want to go into, they have that, you know, end in mind. I think taking these college classes before they graduate is a great thing. Also, last few things we have on the slide: job shadowing and ACT prep. Job shadowing, I know in the past, over the summer, we've even had, you know, future accounting students, if they have an interest in math, to, you know, they came into our offices, see what we do every day and see if it aligns with what their interests are. Now, you know, we're not showing them debits and credits every day. We're showing them how we help people, and, you know, that's just job specific for us. So having students reach out to people in industry is a great thing as well. See what people are actually doing in their jobs. ACT test, I put this at the end. I wasn't the best at the ACT. If you can imagine, I passed my CPA test. The ACT was not great for me. So I could have definitely used more test preparation courses, and, you know, just to be able to, you know, get a little bit more on scholarships than what I was able to do. So I think that applies for everybody. And then lastly, in high school, you know, we need to be talking money with our kids. So in general, I think just normal financial planning things, or you know, just the basics of money, what that's going to look like in college, and also prepare a budget for what we think college will cost, when bills will be due, and how we're going to fund those. So those are all very important things to have conversations with your kids, and we just need to know and clearly communicate what that funding plan is going to look like for school coming up. We can always stray away from the plan. We know it's not set in stone, but let's have those conversations. So now we kind of move on from the high school perspective to, I know on this slide it says college. This is about, you know, our junior, senior year. So this is crunch time, and these are the things that we need to be looking out for during those last, you know, that last year of high school going into college. And so again, we're gonna emphasize asking questions to whoever will, you know, guidance counselors, college admission people, like Stacy here at Northeast. And we also need to start figuring out what we're going to do for this FAFSA form. And so we will talk a little bit more about that in a few slides here, but just keep that in mind that that is a big piece. That's the main deadline that we have to follow. Also, a little bit on the more fun side of the spectrum, we have FAFSA on the boring side, I would say, for most people, and then the college visit side, just going out and seeing what colleges have to offer, whether it's your local community college, your local four-year. Challenge your kids to see, you know, let's go on a few college visits, make it a fun day, and just a day that you can, you know, also just, you know, see what that experience will look like for your kids.
And Andrew, I would encourage them when they do their college visits to reach out and schedule an appointment with the financial aid office, because that would give you a good opportunity to see what type of funding sources are specific to that school.
Sure. Yeah. Great point. We have to know different schools are going to have different requirements. And like you said, we don't want to just send our kids out and have them figure out this process on their own, because that's, 16 to 17-year-old kids, we want to make sure they're set up to thrive. And so having some parent intervention on that and making sure deadlines are happening, everybody has to own this process when we're going through it. A few other points here. We do want to align our careers or what we think our major is going to be with some classes that we will take or have taken maybe in our community college classes our senior year. So we're always trying to not necessarily pick out these majors for kids when they're a senior in high school, but acknowledge what those interests of theirs are, and then how does that translate to what classes we should be taking. And again, a guidance counselor at a local college is going to be best suited to have those conversations with you and your child. And then also, we need to align our college choice with our budget. So, if a client doesn't have a lot saved and we don't have a lot of scholarships, financial aid available, how are we going to make college work? And so, if we fully rely on student loans, we would say that's going to hurt our ROI. So how do we apply for scholarships, maybe go to a 2-year school and then finish out your other 2 years at a 4-year college? How are we going to make this work with the pot of money that we have to go to school? Because we don't want to send our kids to school all on student loans and then have them come out with a career that makes it hard for them to start repaying those student loans. So just something to keep in mind. We just need a plan for the overall college experience. A few other things here. So on-campus living and meal plans. So these are also added costs to college that we need to be thinking about. So it's not always just the tuition that's going to, be a bigger expense. It's going to be these on-campus living and meal plans. So also, lastly, we just need to be job shadowing, interviewing people. We're just seeing, having our students go out to local businesses and determining what they do at that job. And then also, as we're in college, starting some of those internship activities. Am I missing anything there, Stacy?
Don't think so. As far as the job shadow and internships, I could maybe give a little bit more information about filling out the FAFSA.
Sure.
FAFSA opens up for the 2023-24 school year on October 1st. And so I would encourage you to spend some time filling out the FAFSA as soon as possible after that date, and submitting that to the colleges of your choice. You can submit it to multiple colleges, and they will send financial aid offer letters to you once they receive your FAFSA. Make sure that you have an application for admissions on file at the colleges that you're sending your FAFSA to, because sometimes if there's not an admissions application on file, they will not process the FAFSA. It'll just sit there in kind of a suspense area until you have an application for admissions on file. So make sure that you have that step done. The FAFSA does determine what type of financial aid you qualify for, and that could be grants, it could be federal student loans, it could also help tell you what type of institutional aid you qualify for, whether that's need-based or merit-based. The FAFSA kind of determines your financial aid package, which can consist of any federal grants or state grants or any student loan funds that you might qualify for.
Stacy, there's a question specifically, and it says, do you have to fill out the FAFSA for the unsubsidized federal government loan?
So you have to fill out the FAFSA to receive any type of federal student loan. So worst case scenario, you fill out the FAFSA, you're going to qualify for an unsubsidized Stafford loan at least. But it'll also then determine if you qualify for any grant funds, or some of those loan funds can be subsidized. A dependent student, The maximum student loan funds they can qualify for as a freshman is $5,500. Part of that can be subsidized and part of it could be unsubsidized. The maximum subsidized loan is $3,500, and subsidized means that there's no interest accruing on it while the student's in school. So the government pays the interest while you're in school. Unsubsidized means that the interest will accrue while you're in school. Neither loan requires repayment until 6 months after graduation or the point in time that they stop attending at least half-time status, which is 6 or more credit hours.
Yeah, really good question. I know the FAFSA and just those deadlines are probably going to be one of the more important things that become part of this college plan for everyone. Last thing, we talk about a budget, we talk about some of the student loan pieces. One thing that we hear a lot of, if there is a funding shortfall, having some sort of job through school and trying to align that job through school with, an employer that might pay part of our, part of our tuition. I know a lot of employers now are switching more to, if you are working through school, they're going to help you pay that tuition. So again, funding some of those shortfalls with this, college plan that we're trying to form for our kids. So move on here. So this is after college is completed. This is our job preparation stage. And again, this is almost an after correlation of, once we've gone to school, what things should our students be thinking about trying to get that first job? And so we'll go through a few things here. We are big here on importance of grades. Obviously, we want everybody to have a good college experience. And we really emphasize good grades as well as having that bottom-up resume, what we call it. So really that's just taking the idea of grades are important, but we also want to see what else you're doing in school with your time outside of school, and do you have that positive work ethic instead of maybe some extracurriculars at the universities you're going to. So we do stress that bottom-up resume here at our office while also emphasizing that importance of grades. Obviously, that's an important piece. And so this slide looks at, really that time right before we're interviewing for that first job. So again, our big thing is we need to be asking questions to the audience we're trying to, whoever is trying to employ us. So we have a lot of, employer visits here at our office. We'll have students from, Wayne State, Northeast Community College come visit our office and see what we do on a daily basis, see what our people say about our company. And so this is more so on the pre-interview side. And so when kids are interviewing with us, we also like to have them come with questions to us. What does McMill promote as an employer? And it's a two-way street on an interview. And so we really like when students are asking those questions about an employer, because it is, like we say on the slide, you do spend more time at work than anywhere else. So you have to like the people that you're working with. Does the firm or wherever your employer is, do they have a good reputation? And as a student, future employee, will they develop me? And then what does my track record look like from a 3, 5, and 10-year perspective? Does it align with how you want to eventually have a family as an employee, and those sorts of things of what you have in mind for a career? So that kind of takes us through each of those different stages in the students' lives, and also, what's our overall plan? And so our recap, again, we want to seek help from anybody who will give us answers to our questions. A lot of questions that we have we just have to seek out those answers. Again, we want to start early. I can't stress that enough. Talk to your kids in 7th, 8th grade, also all throughout high school. We just have to know and begin with that end in mind. What's our end goal here? And lastly, that plan can change almost daily, monthly. You know, obviously students have different changes or different desires for what they want to go to school for. So this plan is ever changing, but let's get a core plan together to where we can make changes on the fly. And again, that can greatly reduce costs and changes. So we see that a lot with students. And so now I'm going to transition over. Leanne, do you see if we have any other questions? I do have a few for Stacy myself.
Yes, one of them is asking, when does it make sense to fill out a FAFSA based on how much a parent makes? So does it always make sense to fill it out no matter what a parent's income is?
I would encourage everyone to fill out the FAFSA no matter what the parent's income is. You do not have to accept any aid that is offered to you, but the FAFSA a lot of times is used for institutional aid as well as federal and state aid. And so sometimes if you're applying to scholarships at an institution, they might require that FAFSA determine financial need, or they might use it to determine like what other resources they could provide you to help you along the way. So you do not have to accept it. If you're only unsubsidized loan eligible and you decide you don't want to use the loans, all it costed you was a few minutes of your time to fill out that FAFSA. So I would encourage everyone to do it.
So in relation to that, if they know that they did not receive any assistance as a freshman, would you still encourage them as a sophomore in college to fill out the FAFSA if there's no perceived financial aid?
Students can apply for scholarships each academic year. So if they were only unsub eligible as a freshman and they were applying for scholarships as a sophomore, I would still encourage them to fill it out. And you also don't know what circumstances might come up throughout the year. So maybe you don't need the loan funds right away, but you might have some extenuating circumstances come up and you might need those loan funds later on. And so at that point in time, you wouldn't have to fill out the FAFSA. All you'd have to do is contact the financial aid office and ask them to make the award offer. And you wouldn't have to wait for the processing time of the FAFSA. So it doesn't hurt to have it on file. I will tell you too that the FAFSA uses prior year income. So it uses income information from 2 years ago. And sometimes you have different circumstances now than what you had 2 years ago. Maybe you've switched jobs, your income is different. You can reach out to the financial aid office and request what's called a request for special circumstance, might be called a professional judgment. And you can ask the financial aid office to review your information and determine if they can make any changes to the FAFSA data elements. For instance, we could look at possibly using 2022 income versus 2020 if you've had a change in jobs or something, and that might impact your eligibility. So I would encourage you to have a conversation with financial aid offices of the schools that you're looking at and see if that is a possibility if you do have some unique circumstances.
That was one of my questions. So this FAFSA that opens up October 1st, that is going to look at, that's for the 23-24 year?
2023-24 school year, and that will use 2021 tax information.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I guess one of my questions, you know, what is the recurring mistake that you see young students or parents even make that's costing time and money? I imagine these deadlines, but what's your take there?
I think probably one of them is just waiting too long. A lot of students don't actually fill out the FAFSA until a couple weeks before school starts. And that's kind of peak processing time for financial aid offices. And so it delays the financial aid award package sometimes if you wait too long. So I would encourage you to apply early and get that out of the way. You also have a better opportunity to be awarded some of the limited funds and campus-based funding. Financial aid offices have access to some state grants like a Nebraska Opportunity Grant that has limited funding, and also access to a federal supplemental education opportunity grant that is limited in funding. And the earlier that you can apply, the better your chances are of receiving some of those funds because they're just limited. So I would encourage you to do that. I think And one of the other things that we run into a lot of times is login information. A student has to create a username and password in order to fill out the FAFSA. And the parent also has to create a username and a password in order to electronically sign the FAFSA. And so when you're creating those usernames and passwords, one thing you want to do is don't use your school email address, because that username and password is going to stay with you. And so a lot of times when you graduate high school, your email is shut off. So don't use your school email address, and make sure that the email address is unique to the user. So parents, when you're creating a FAFSA username and password, use your email address, and the student needs to make sure they're using their own email address when they're creating that username and password.
Okay. So yeah, get a Gmail account or something along those lines.
Yes.
Okay. That's helpful. I know we do get a lot of login questions for the FAFSA, so that's very helpful. Anything else computer or technology-wise with the FAFSA?
I would encourage you, when you're filling out the FAFSA, is use the IRS data retrieval. A lot of times, if you can do that, it'll save time in the long run. It'll go out to the IRS website and it'll retrieve your income information directly from the IRS website and pull it into the FAFSA. If you happen to be selected for verification, and usually sometimes 1 out of 3 students are selected for verification, it's just less documentation that you have to provide to the financial aid office in the long run, because it comes directly from the IRS website. We're not required to get copies of tax returns. And so it's basically then a lot of times just a verification worksheet that you have to fill out, and it's a lot quicker. So I would encourage you to do the IRS data retrieval. I would also let you know that there are a lot of community colleges, Northeast is one of them, that offer FAFSA completion events. And so you reach out to see what different events are around your area. We will assist anyone in filling out the FAFSA, whether they're attending Northeast or not. So all they have to do is call our office, schedule an appointment. We'll do in-person appointments or Zoom appointments. So if you're afraid of filling out the FAFSA, sometimes it can be a little intimidating. Reach out to your financial aid offices in your area, and they're more than willing to help you with it.
Good. That's a great resource. I know it is intimidating. I work in tax all day, and that still gives me the chills thinking about FAFSA. So that's a great resource that we can have here at Northeast. So yeah, otherwise, Leanne, are we all good on questions?
No other questions.
Okay. Well, again, appreciate you, Stacy, for being on here. Great information. Yeah, we just really stress to parents and students to have this plan that can change at any moment, but let's get the plan started and let's start talking about it and make sure everybody's prepared for when that day comes. So, any closing thoughts?
I just take advantage of the people that are there to help you and reach out and ask questions. So there's lots of resources out there. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. Should be good, and everybody have a good rest of your week. Thank you.